Most teams wait until launch to collect testimonials, but if we agree that they're valuable, why should we wait? In this episode of Launch with Confidence, I'm joined by Natalie Mackay. She's a product marketing leader. She's here to talk to us about the power of pre-launch social proofing. She unpacks why early adopters are your best marketing asset, how to turn their feedback into messaging that sticks, and the real reason teams overlook this advantage. Let's get into it. All right, everybody, welcome to the Launch with Confidence podcast. Today, I'm joined by Natalie Mackay.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, Chris. I'm really excited to talk today.
Yeah, I mean, it was great. We had a pre-meeting before this, so we got to having a really good conversation, and I really enjoyed it. So we have some questions here, and I really have three questions to kind of pick your brain at. The first one, just talking about the role of social proofing and testimonials in that go-to-market strategy. Like, what are their roles?
Absolutely. So just a little bit of background. I am a pretty scrappy B2B SaaS product marketer. So this is kind of a new way of thinking from my perspective. And I'm really excited to talk about it today because I think that there is an opportunity to change how we think about collecting testimonials and social proof, even during like the beta phase. So I really think it's important to take the time to leverage that time with the customer, even during beta interviews, to really understand their challenges, really understand without any kind of ulterior motives, just really understand their use cases. And I think that's really different than how a lot of companies or how a lot of product teams or product marketing teams think about the beta. But I think it's an opportunity to really drive a more successful go-to-market strategy. So for example, when I was at a smaller company, and this was less than like 200 employees, we were so firm, and you see this a lot. I've job hopped a lot in my 20s, so I've seen this at a lot of organizations. But you see that the beta process is kind of this like really strict, rigid process where it's really focused on debugging, identifying potential issues, just ensuring that workflows are really based on realistic user behavior. But eventually I did convince my product manager to have a bit of a different approach. So we realized that we could still gather, again, like really valuable common use cases, customer challenges, and what they were going to get and what the new feature or functionality was going to enable them to do, even in the beta. So it was a bit radical at that organization, but it helped us to really launch more effectively and validate our messaging and positioning because we started asking beta customers high-level questions like, what are you trying to solve? What are your most common use cases? And even if they hadn't implemented the feature yet, obviously they're in a beta, right? It's just so great to just learn what they're trying to achieve and the anticipated value and benefits that they're looking to get from a feature or functionality. And so as a result, on launch day, we already had these kind of signed off customer testimonials to showcase in our content. And that's something that you run into a lot as a product marketer. It's like this big hurrah, like launch day, everybody's super excited. And then everybody's like, well, where's the social proof? And where are the customers? Well, they haven't been implemented. So this was a really great way that we could get that kind of social proof in the customer's language, like front and center, and what they were anticipating to do, how they were excited, kind of adding to that excitement about the feature functionality in a totally new way. So like I said earlier, I think it's not impossible to kind of change this kind of predefined notion of what a beta is to really drive a more effective go-to-market strategy, in my opinion.
Yeah. And what do you think that value is? So we get to shape the messages and we have some social proof. What is that helping? Like why would customers care about having those kind of things?
Well, I think that we can do all this kind of market research. We can do our due diligence, as I say, but there's something really special about hearing in the language of someone else that's just like you. Maybe they're in the same role as you, even better if they're in the same role and the same industry. And we can get really, really targeted on exactly what that person cares about and what they want to solve. So it really goes from, hey, I have this product or feature that I'm launching. Here are the benefits. Here are, kind of that like high level product marketing, like value and benefits exercise. It goes from doing something like that, which can sometimes feel very marketing-y or it can feel very generic, to something that feels really real for the customer. And so we did see like quite a bit of more conversions from website copy. We saw more conversions in terms of like literal signups from our website by using that language that we extracted from the beta customers and what they were looking to do.
Yeah. I mean, it's I guess it's kind of embedded in the way we buy products, right? Like even if it's a SaaS product, like when I want to go buy something on Amazon, if it's something that I'm not familiar with, I may go dig into some of those reviews, for example. And I've got a very particular process. Like I go hit some of the fives and then I hit some of the ones and twos. And okay, what are the big problems that I might have to overcome? And those are the kind of like, I guess, user generated. It's feedback from real people. And I think that's
Exactly.
maybe what people are looking for is when we say social proof, it's did someone else make this decision? And is that a good fit for me as well?
Absolutely. And it's a great way to really prove that maybe you have this great product or feature that can solve a problem, but people don't know the name of that product or feature, right? They're not going and Googling, oh, I'm looking for XYZ product from blah, blah, blah. They're going, oh, I have this horrible problem in my job. It's holding me back from being more efficient. It's holding me back from ultimately getting promoted, making my boss happy. And so it's just being able to really speak in the customer's language and what they provide to you with during those beta interviews, where someone could on launch day be like just scrolling through maybe whatever forum or community that they follow and get their information from and be like, wow, I had no idea what this company did. I had no idea what this product is, but that challenge sucks. And I need to solve that like yesterday.
Yeah. And it's funny as a in a world of AI, and I've been kind of just watching this for the most part. If you were to do some kind of, you're in B2B, you got a SaaS sense to you too. When you do research and you start going the AI route, right? So like you're not in forums or anything like that, and you go AI route and you want to do some search. You want to look at what this company's doing or try to solve a problem. And something that AI will do is commonly go through a lot of those communities or those reviews
Mhm.
and that user generated content because it sees it as a valuable source, right? Like they see end users as a point, it's a credibility point. Then like your web pages and all the information you give about the product, but it's a very clear stage is that customer, that user end of how they're describing your product and things that they like and don't like.
Absolutely. And sometimes, I use ChatGPT, I use Claude, I use these generative AI tools every day in my day-to-day in product marketing. And I'm never gonna, poo-poo on them for lack of a better word. But you do have to think about what are they measuring the top things on? Okay, so what I mean by that, I'll use an example to kind of illustrate. At a previous company, we wanted to leverage YouTube to see if we could generate leads from that channel. Now, YouTube has all these great tools out there that can tell you keywords to target in your title, for example. So we spent a lot of time creating content around keywords from these different tools like TubeBuddy, for example. And what we found was that although maybe a few of them would get more views, our total watch time was very low. And so it got me to thinking, okay, what if we just created content based on the questions we know our customers are asking at different stages of their buying process? And after doing customer buyer interviews, we knew what these questions were. So we started creating content around those topics and questions, even if they weren't ranked high by the algorithm. And we did see an improvement in our overall watch time on those individual videos. Plus, when we did speak to the leads who ended up inquiring about the product, we asked them, hey, what brought you to our site? And they said, well, I wanted to know a little bit more about XYZ, or I wanted to know how to solve XYZ. And I found that video on YouTube that answered that for me. And 9 times out of 10, it was a video that we had done from the perspective of, does this customer ask this question during the buying process versus does this title or topic have enough keywords? So it's really about building content for the buyer and not serving an algorithm, for example.
Yeah, no, it's definitely interesting. I've done it in the same world in terms of like writing and whatnot. What
Hmm.
it would suggest in writing is not necessarily the way users think, and it's
Hmm.
trying to take in signals, right? So all the things that we feed it, all the things on the internet are signals to it to give you a sense of what it thinks is the right answer. But and I think that's the value of that end user feedback in even that equation. So it's not even just in the messaging and whatnot. It's like if you're building content or writing content for people that have those questions, maybe they go to AI to get some of those questions. But
Hmm.
if you're on the other end to answer them with whatever content you have, because they'll pull in your YouTube videos now. They'll pull in some extra context and pull that together. But you got to make sure you have the information there, and it wants to pull a diverse set of information for you. So I think that really just kind of touts the value of getting some of that content from users in your messaging. So in our next question, thinking about what are other ways that we can gather insights to help us shape or position our products.
Yeah, I mean, I am pretty old school with this. I mean, I think doing that market research, again, doing your due diligence, meeting with those beta customers and having those open-ended questions, learning about their problems. I think another area that I don't see a lot of product marketers leverage enough is working with partners. So if you're at a B2B SaaS company, 9 times out of 10, at least in my experience, you're going to be working with resellers and they have great knowledge. I mean, they're experts on so many different products for their customers. So even just meeting with them, hey, we have this product launch, this is coming. What do you think? How do you think customers will be reacting to this? Do you think this will resonate? Has been really helpful as well. Of course, I come from, again, like a B2B SaaS company kind of background. So I've always leveraged analysts like Gartner to kind of bounce my ideas off of, whether it's naming or if we have the right ICP in mind or audience in mind for this product launch or feature. But I think it comes down to like really basic interviewing. It's coming down to like the mom test or the mom experiment, I think is the name of the book. So just asking those really open-ended questions and not trying to lead anybody, trying to lead with your ideas and really just getting to the core of what someone actually cares about and the problems that they feel are top of mind. So I do have an example of this where I did a product launch that the first time around didn't go very well because I didn't really do much customer validation, although I wanted to. And I think I kind of went back to the drawing board. I said, okay, I'm going to sit down and I'm just going to talk with people. I'm just going to talk with people via LinkedIn, just ask for a quick coffee date kind of call and just ask, hey, what's going on in your world? What challenges do you have? And then from there, I used ChatGPT to download all the transcriptions, of course, got their okay to record, and then came up with some common trends. And I took that language. I really wanted to find specific language that, if I could, were trends across the people that I spoke to. So very common things that they kept saying over and over again, different phrases. And then I put that at the front of my homepage. And I found that, and this is a shout out to Anthony Pieri of Fletch PMM. If you don't follow him on LinkedIn, you definitely should if you're in product marketing. This is not sponsored, but I just love his content and he's amazing. But he really does tout that positioning should be on your homepage. And that's kind of radical in some ways in the product marketing field because we've always been taught that positioning is strictly internal. It's the guidance. Messaging is where you see the external kind of fruition of positioning. But I do think that putting my positioning after having those open-ended conversations with potential customers, but just seeing how that transition from just really coming back to the basics and meeting with my potential customers and learning like maybe I have an idea of what they're going through and like the challenges that they have, and maybe they don't care about that at all. Or maybe they recognize that that's a challenge, but they're not interested in fixing it. Like sometimes people know, hey, I'm not doing this really well, or this sucks, but I'm not ready to to buy something to solve this problem. So it's really letting the customer guide you to what is important.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love having a constant connection to customers.
Hmm.
Like I get to meet with people in what I consider like my target market, at least maybe 4 to 5 a week, just people that I don't know, just have that kind of regular flow of people to meet with, to learn about what they're doing, what challenges they have. And we got a couple communities that meet up monthly and get to hear those same things, but just in a group setting. And it's so powerful to almost everything you do, not just, positioning, but building products and supporting products and thinking about how you build products internally and kind of
Hmm.
absorbing that. And that connection with people is just, it's so important to have. We're not the buyers of our product. We wouldn't be a very big company if we were the only customer, for example. So that's why I think you need that connection with people.
Absolutely.
So getting off to the next question with that same mind, why do you think teams kind of overlook that beta phase and those users in their go to market tools? Why do you think that's happening?
Honestly, like I said kind of earlier in our discussion, I think that beta process, that beta phase has been in this kind of very rigid definition for a long time. And I think most, I would say, product management kind of professionals are still thinking, okay, this is like strictly to debug, to make sure that, things are behaving the way that they're intended. But I think that the most strategic product managers are more open to leveraging the beta in a different way and asking different questions on those calls with the customers to get those deeper insights in that language that we could use in our go to market content, for example. And it really benefits everybody to think this way, because if you're thinking about it, the customer feels really heard. The product managers are still identifying bugs and usability issues, but then you as a product marketer get, that language and that story to fuel stronger messaging. And so I think that I've been really lucky to have these more like strategic, more open-minded product management counterparts who have said, okay, like maybe like, because I've sometimes they could be so strict on like, I'm going to handle the beta process and I'm going to recruit the beta participants and I'm going to have this call and you're not invited. That can happen sometimes. But I think I've had really great like product managers that are like, okay, we've talked, we're collaborating, we're talking about how can we make this better? How can we solve this problem of not having any social proof or any like really in the language of the customer type of messaging? Well, maybe what we could do is like kind of change the process. So we did a really big launch back at this company, again, smaller than like 200 employees, so really really fast paced startup. And we found that these customers had to fill out a beta request, like beta participant form. And it's pretty straightforward. And I was thinking, well, what if we just added a question to the form and just said, hey, if you had a good experience, if you would like to, would you be interested in providing like XYZ? So either would you be interested in providing a public quote? Would you be interested in doing a webinar with us? Would you be interested in kind of like went through like the level of like how heavy of a lift is this for a customer? And of course, we gave them the option to completely opt out. Like, I'm not interested in being any kind of like social proof or public quote or anything like that. And we found that I had one PM that was really hesitant and really nervous. Hey, this is not what betas are for. Like, we're going to deter the customer away from getting on this kind of more usability and bug fix call. But what ended up happening was that like 9 times out of 10, honestly, the customers were like, yeah, like I'll give you a quote. Like I'll tell you, that this product is going to be great for us and is going to solve this problem. We actually found that if they're that gung-ho about being the first folks to provide feedback and like really help to develop this product, they are likely to say, yeah, like I'll give you a quote from one of our sessions, or I'll give you a quote about how excited I am. So it was funny because I felt like there was a lot of hesitation and a lot of nerves because of that like kind of mindset of what a beta is. But it ended up being like very, very easy. And again, you're not forcing anybody. Like people can say, I'm not interested, and that's totally fine. That's totally fine.
Yeah. It's funny because like I've heard we don't want too many cooks in the kitchen, right? And one of here's like a side to that is that weird cooking and sides. When you're in a beta test, one of the key problems, us being in the
Hmm.
industry a lot, is participation. So getting that feedback. And one thing I always say, like a great way to increase the participation engagement from your beta users is to respond to them, is to ensure that their feedback is being heard. And not all feedback is just bugs
Hmm.
and errors. Ideally you fix those things and you're letting them know, but when they're giving you input on how the product is having an impact in their lives, the ideal output to that is that that information gets used, right?
Hmm.
And that's where and product marketing has a stake in that. Cooking anything, you're listening, and more people listening in a company means that they're feeling heard, and more people that are heard, more likely to participate, more likely to engage, especially over time. Company gets more data, which is great
Yeah.
because that's all just fuel, right? Decision making stuff.
Exactly. And I'm glad that you brought up that point about like too many cooks in the kitchen because that does come up a lot. It's like, oh, now we're gonna have to add that product marketer to this, and we have to let the beta customer know who you are. There's a couple different ways that we kind of overcame that. I mean, some of the time I would join just as a fly on the wall. Of course, we'd let the customer know that I was going to be there, but I actually didn't ask like any questions that they didn't want me to. If the PM like was a little bit more strict about running the meeting, but then I would say, hey, like from your conversation it sounded like this, and I would kind of come up with a summary of like the common use case that they were looking to solve or the value that they were anticipating from this feature. And then I would say, does that sound like like what you were really trying to say during the meeting? If they said that they were interested in providing a public quote, I'm like, would you be okay with this being on the blog post on the day of launch? And 9 times out of 10, like people were like, yep, that sums up like what I was talking about during the beta interview. So yeah, that looks great. And I didn't even ask them. I was just sitting as a fly on the wall. So
Yeah, and that another way to look at these users that are willing to put in that extra effort. Think about what a great like potential advocate and
mhm.
like what who they're recommending to. So say they enjoy the product so much, they're like, yeah, totally, I want to help you, right? I wonder how much they're doing on the back end of talking to their colleagues or people. If you're B2B SaaS, the colleagues or friends and different companies that have access to that, or if you're in consumers, their friends and family and getting that product into places. And that evangelism of your product can really stem from these users who you're interacting and using their feedback. Yeah. All right. Well, I've had a wonderful conversation with you. I thought this was great. I
Thank
love
you.
to move to the rapid fire question section.
Okay.
If you're ready for this, it's going to just come super quick. Not really that quick.
All right. Well, I've had a lot of coffee, so
All right. Well,
let's do
first
it.
question: coffee or tea?
Well, I answered the first
Got
question.
it.
Definitely.
What's a launch mistake you'll never make again?
Oh gosh, let me try to summarize this because I know this is rapid fire. I would say just doing anything and everything without any kind of business metric or success metric in mind. Like we did 10 assets, good, it's live, done. Like you have to have some kind of business metric, success metric, business outcome, like some kind of impact that you're trying to have when you're launching something. It's not enough just to be GA. So that was a big learning lesson, but I think, that just comes from experience, it comes from time.
Yeah. All right. Slack message you dread seeing, or Microsoft Teams, if that's one of your things.
Well, I think, and this is probably really common, but I think anytime it's like, are you free right now for a quick chat? Like, can you hop on a call right now? Or even worse, if you just call me, please don't do that. Like, I'm not in sales anymore. I was in tech sales for a long time. Like, let's have a meeting. Let's discuss this. Give me some context. So
Yeah. No
please don't do
huddle.
that. Yeah.
All
Nope.
right. What's your go-to snack when you're getting ready to launch a product?
Yeah. I'm going to say this wrong, but I think it's like Reese's Fast Breaks. So good.
Okay. Yeah. If you could steal the go-to-market team from any company, who would it be?
I think I'd pick Canva's team. And the reason why is just because I love Canva. I just love how they dominated this massive market that was like pretty much owned by this behemoth company. And they just made it accessible, easy, and fun. They made design no longer a barrier to your creativity, and they put their messaging and their value at the forefront of really democratizing design. And I use it constantly. It's a great product. So I just can't say enough like great things about Canva.
Yeah. All right. You're launching a product. Who's the first person you're calling?
Okay, so this was a tough one. I have a lot of really great mentors that I would call, but I think my current manager, just because she's so logical, she's so data driven and strategic, and I think she has a level-headedness that kind of balances my like scrappy risk-taking style, which is what I really need, because she kind of reins me in when she's like, Natalie, that's a little much. So just helping me get back to what's fully going to resonate, and she's just great.
Yeah. It's great. All right. Well, again, had a great time, and I'm glad we got to talk, and I'm glad we got you on the podcast.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, Chris.
Thanks for joining.